Hi, my name's Tim Armit. What an amazing turnout. I think this shows that when we're engaging with everybody on the Olympics, the interest we get is absolutely fantastic. First of all, I haven't got any tickets, so if you've come for that, you might as well be. Second, there's a guy from Canary Wharf said recently, he says, I believe there's a sports day happening down at Stratford soon. And I think we've got to put it in context. You know, this is an event that's coming, we know it's coming, and really I think we don't want to over-dramatise some of the stuff that we can do here. There's two halves to what we're trying to do in the considering the travel changes or options for the Olympic period. The first half is, as you'll see some of the posters over there, we know that there's going to be up to 2 to 3 hour delays on some of the trains, potentially on some of the stations during the period of the Olympics. As such, with 7 months' notice of those delays coming, it would be madness if we didn't individually consider how that was going to affect us. So what we're trying to do is to work with staff to find out almost what's best for staff, what's best for us. What can we do to lessen the burden on ourselves and enable us to come to work in a way that allows us to go home from work as well with a minimum impact on us. That's the first half, and that's what we're trying to focus on. The second half is the government has committed that all civil servants within London will positively change 50% of their journeys within the M25 for the entire period of the Olympics, for the 50-day period of the Olympics. I'm sorry if I'm teaching some of you to suck eggs here, but it's probably better if we get the full clarity out there. We're talking from July the 21st until September the 9th. So this is from the day that the Flame arrives in London, which is on the 21st of July. The Games start the Friday after that, on the 27th. And the Paralympics end on September the 9th. It's for that entire period that we're talking about, including the 2-week gap in between. The reason for that is you'll see some of the photographs if you look around from both Australia and Beijing. When the torch came into those cities, over 1 to 2 million people came to watch somebody run along carrying a torch. So it could be very busy then. The athletes will be here, 20,000 foreign media correspondents will be here. It will be busy during that period. The same in the handover period in between the middle of the Games as well. They will not all be disappearing. You'll also note on one of the posters over there the Olympic travel route. And this is the roads that are being closed down to allow the elite athletes and the people supporting the Games to be able to get to Stratford and back. And it's a huge amount of road that is being shut for that period, which will impact us as well. Some of the delays that were seen at Atlanta and other places were unbelievable in terms of the hours on tubes. So we're trying to mitigate that. The second half to it is this commitment. The government's made this commitment. 50% of us must aim to try and change our travel during the period of the Games. For some departments, and we've been heavily involved in the DFT and Cabinet Office with some of their discussions, some departments are talking about very small numbers of staff with very high capabilities of home working. We have up to 9,000 staff inside the M25. Many other departments are talking about 800, 900 people inside the M25. We're talking 9,000 staff. We've got an incredibly low level of home working capability in our department compared to other departments. So that's not really an option which some departments can take, of simply go home, log on and work at home. It's not really open to us. So we're realistically looking at 3,900 staff every day that we want to make some sort of positive change. A positive change is either coming in early, going home late, coming in late, going home early, walking a bit further, cycling, working in another office, working at home. Something that aims to get us off the network. Now, to do this, we've taken quite a unique approach for some of the department's work, in that we've been trying to liaise directly with the 9,000 staff. We haven't been using trickle down through management, we haven't been using the usual paths. We've tried to actually engage all the staff. Hopefully all of you here completed a questionnaire in January or February, asking you what you think you could do. To give you an idea of the interest that we had in this, we sent it out to 8,900, 7,500 people completed it. So 7,500 out of 8,900 is a fantastic response. A further 500 staff contacted us asking to be put on because they hadn't been on the original list because of outdated PF lists or whatever reason. So we actually picked up people wanting to be involved in it as well, very keen to get their wishes heard. With that done, We've now sent out, hopefully you'll have seen it, a POP, Personal Olympic and Paralympic Plan. And in that we're trying to identify the precise changes that people want to try and make over the period of the Olympics. There's two reasons for that. The first of all, we want to see that we can try and hit the 50% target that we've got to report on daily to DFT, that we're achieving our aim. And the second is, and this is where it gets quite complicated, is can we allow staff to work in other offices? Now, I've done over the years a lot of work in the commercial sector, and for a decade or so, people have comfortably worked at home or in other offices and drop-ins on a regular basis. So have many other departments. For us, it's quite a change. So how can we enable staff to work in other locations? A lot of staff live and travel in. They live beside an office, they travel away from that office to come to where they work in central London particularly. I mean, I live out in West London. Twickenham would be the closest one to me, but I come in every day, and yet I could walk to the Twickenham office. So for me, it would be a heck of a lot easier, a heck of a lot quicker, and I'd probably get back 2 hours of my life every day personally, as opposed to sitting on a train. And we've talked to people that are doing 1 hour, 45-minute journeys each way that could work in an office 10 minutes beside where they live and get back nearly 3 hours of their life personally back to them as benefit to them. So we're trying to identify what space there is. There isn't much. There's about, if we take in the average number of leave, the average leave in this period is 24% per office per day. We round it down, if we take that down to 15% to give ourselves contingency, and we look at empty desks, we've got around about 1,500 desks around the M25 area where people could work if they didn't come into central London. That's 1,500, which 8,900 people would like to consider working in. So what we've tried to design is an allocation based on the questionnaires that people completed of where they think they'd like to go, pro-ratering that by the line of business to say that yes, we can say put X amount of people into Y amount of offices for that period of time. It will then be up to management to work with staff to say, yes, it's okay for you to go there because operationally that works for you. For some businesses, it just doesn't work. I mean, they have to, certain local compliance have to be where they're based to do their jobs. But for others, if it works with management and it works operationally and there's space, then we'll try and allow staff to work closer to home and get the benefit of that as well. So what we're trying to do now is we're trying to, by the middle of April, identify where staff could go, how we could fit them in. And then we'll try and make sure that we've got the IMS there, because a lot of people's IMS is particular to their PC, and that will have to be enabled as well. So our challenge now is to try and map those people to those offices for that time. However, even if we did that, the 1,500 maximum, and we achieved it every day, that's only just over a third of the number of people that we need to make a change. So it's not going to be the biggest impact that we do. The biggest things will be changing times or changing the way you come to work. And that's what we've got to look at for most people's options. You may be aware that we ran a test a couple of weeks ago for 100 Parliament Street, 22 Kingsway and Customs House, and we asked them to consider what they could do. This was the biggest test that anyone in the civil service has run. It was about 2,400 staff, and it was also one of the most successful. 65% of staff changed their mode daily. A lot of people came in at 7:30 and found they could achieve that. A number of people got off at Euston or Liverpool Street and walked to the office and avoided the tube. So people increasing cycling, all these sort of things. So that's the big option for us going forward. It isn't going to be going to another office. It will be to change the time that you come in. Now, why are we doing this? Well, what we don't really want to see is staff suffering, as was mentioned before. We want staff to make sure that they are not caught up in all of this. I think there's also a potential for people to think, well, we had this on the Millennium Boat, we had this with pandemic, we've heard all this before, and is it really going to happen? If you came in on August the 2nd and got into work and then found in the evening it took you 4 hours to go home, you'd be more upset about coming to work the next day. And we know it's going to happen. So therefore we're trying to make sure that you can consider different ways to try and avoid these impacts. You'll find a lot of information up on the walls there about the stations that are going to be impacted, the potential delay times on those stations, the days when they could be impacted, and things to try and avoid. And what we want to try and do is to help staff to help themselves to know that they can avoid these if they liaise with management and put their plans in place.